You, the Messiah. No offense, Perdre, but that has got to be the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Why not me?
Have you met yourself? Perdre, you drink, you fight, you like to break people's arms just to hear the sounds they make.
Grow dumbass crazy here.
Howdy, pilgrims, and thanks for tuning in to Season 3 of Preacher versus Preacher. It's a comparison companion podcast. At least maybe, I don't know if it still is, but that's what it was.
That's what we've been calling it.
That's what we've been calling it. Each week we've been getting together and not only recapping AMC's series Preacher, but we've been directly comparing it to the 1990s comic it's based on by Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon. Now, who are we? I'm Bill Sweeney. I got my buddy Dom here. Say hello, Dom. People heard you already a little bit?
They did. What's up, guys? Welcome back.
Hey.
And if it's your first time here, welcome. Glad to have you.
Glad to have you. You might know us from the Wicked Theory podcast, but if not, that's no big deal. We'll have a tag at the end of the episode if you want to know a little bit more about that. But we've got to get some stuff. We got to get some official business out of the way.
As always.
Regular listeners have already noticed some changes around here.
We've shed some skin.
We've made some adjustments in Season 3 here. So, first off, the music was different.
Yeah.
Let's just get that out of the way.
What do you guys think about that?
You know, let me know. We got an email address. We're going to give you that in a second and all that good stuff. But what did you think, Tom? That was the first time you heard it.
It was. I enjoyed it. Bill kind of kept it out as a surprise.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Okay.
I liked it.
I enjoyed it. It was fun. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give it a...
It made me ready to record, so there's that.
That's good. I liked the energy on it. I was like, I don't know if this, I could probably find something better or do something better. I mean, I made it in GarageBand with some loops. You know what I mean? But...
Bill Sweeney, producer at service.
Loop Master General. I'll take that. Because turns out we were getting some dings on the YouTube because we put these files up to YouTube.
Right.
So YouTube was like really tied on the copyright stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, I don't mind Johnny Cash's people or whoever gets the money for Johnny Cash music getting it, but if we're only gonna get 3 plays, I'd like it not to be an issue.
Right.
So
I
screw
agree.
it. We went with some.
Homegrown stuff.
Homegrown. I like it.
There you
Homegrown, indeed. So that's the first thing. And then if you're a regular listener, like we said before, you might notice that Brother Bob's not here. So Brother Bob, as if you might remember, last season he had enough.
He just officially tapped out.
He tapped out. He literally tapped out. He's like, that's it. I'm good. And that's all right. That's cool. You know what I mean? And at least he did the right thing as opposed to try and just kind of chug through and be annoyed all the time or something.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Just to give some context, some backstory for those who don't know exactly what we're talking about.
Okay.
The previous 2 seasons of this podcast, we've had a third host.
Yeah.
Bob, Bill's brother.
Hey.
But being that the 3 of us are huge fans of the comic.
Right.
And also being that the show does not stick too well to the source material.
Yeah.
Not that I have too much of a problem with it as much as others do.
Sure.
Bob just couldn't deal with it anymore and decided to step away.
Yeah,
just stopped watching the show altogether.
Yeah.
So.
We actually he moseyed on through the room
He did.
not that long ago.
He did.
Not to give away too much, but he is nearby.
He is.
So he's here in spirit.
Or physical form, technically.
Something. You might hear him grumble on by or something.
Right.
So all the power to him, and we'll see how it goes with just me and Dom here tonight. And then maybe in the future down the line, some other people might pop up that you're used to hearing. Adrian Palmer, Sarah Netzley from over on the DC TV Report podcast and EW.com, where she's a freelance writer and does recaps of TV shows, which I believe is how we originally crossed paths with her.
It is.
She was doing the Preacher recaps, right?
Indeed.
So other new news real quick. We got a new graphic.
We did.
So if you're looking for us on our other new news item, Spotify. Hey, things have changed a little bit. You know what I mean? So you can find us in all those usual places like iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play. Just search for us. If you don't like where you're listening to us right now, hey, there's options. Just search for us on your podcast player and service of choice. We're still at the same Twitter handles. That hasn't changed. You're Dom_Torre, Torre.
That's correct.
I'm at Wicked Theory. The email address is pvp@wickedtheory.com. Sign in with your Twitter handle. We'll shout it out. Real quick, I'll say it here. It's further in the notes, but since I just mentioned the email address, this season, I want people to send us in their grandma stories. Because I think Crazy Grandma is going to be not to get ahead of the bus here, but Crazy Grandma is going to be a theme, I think.
Throughout this season.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, you got Crazy Grandma stories? I don't know. It was something that came to me. I don't really have any, but I'm sure there's people out there that do. So if you do, I'll say this.
Please send them to us.
Yes. And I'll say this. I think I had a Crazy Grandma, but I was too young to know all the crazy stories, and my mom kind of kept some of them, held them back. Right. She was always like, "Oh, I can't." Like she would always go to tell some stories, and it was like, "Oh, she's gonna," she feels like she's gonna cross a line,
because, right.
you know what I mean? And I'm like, "No, I'm old enough now. Tell me about Irene. Tell me how crazy she was." And it's like, "No, I don't want to know." But maybe somebody else will share that. And if you want to stay anonymous for some reason, you just kind of want to be like, hey, just don't put my name on it. That's fine.
Be creative.
Be creative.
Make up an alias.
Make up an alias, but don't make up the story.
Right.
But send us your crazy grandma stories if you got one at pvp@wickedtheory.com.
Correct.
We might do the giveaway again this season. Stay tuned to find out. Every season so far we gave away an absolute edition of Preacher. You know what I mean? Because it's the book we love. That's why we're here. This kind of started as a book club in a sense.
It did.
But the last big change, I think it's kind of just come to a realization of what this show really kind of is for us, this podcast. And I think it's time to consider this, because there's a lot of changes here. Because consider this the reboot a little bit. And I think the thing is that we're going to try and go, at least for this episode, see how it feels. Then you people give us feedback on it. But we're going to go a little looser with the breakdown. Usually we kind of really did a nice...
beat by beat.
Yeah, beat by beat. And the show would run a little long. We would start to get out of energy by the end of it. So it was a little daunting. It's not just because we had issues with the material. It just felt like time-wise. It was just like, oh my God,
Yeah, it just wasn't the right structure for us.
Yeah, it seemed like the flow would burn out. Mm-hmm. So we're going to give this a go and see how this goes. But we're going to hit all the main stuff. But as far as rebooting this show in a sense, it's like saying, this has always kind of been more of a... like an experiment, like an observation about how we react to this concept of a thing we really loved got adapted,
right?
And we're not always okay with it,
right?
You know what I mean? So it's like
it ended up almost being a new intervention every episode,
yeah.
And it would definitely hinder the way that we would get into the objective breakdown of the episode and the show and in general,
yeah.
So. That's why it's definitely better to step away from the beat-by-beat breakdown, just touch on the, big scenes or big moments throughout the episode, and then dive deep into our predictions and what everyone else is feeling. Yeah,
because I think if that's the thing, if this is supposed to be like a comparison thing, then that's what we're doing. Let's leave it more towards that maybe a little bit, where it's like, what did this episode look like compared to the books? How did that make us? What did we think of that? How did we react to it in the moment?
I really think it's just coming with a more objective mind state rather than coming in as a snob, a book snob.
Yeah, and I think and just being realistic about or recontextualizing, realizing what it is, how this comes to fruition, how this comes together when we sit here behind the mics, as opposed to originally it was before the show turned out to be the show that it is. Right. We thought this show would be something different too.
Our podcast,
exactly. So it's turned into an experiment or an observational study.
Definitely.
So I don't know. It was something I realized. I made a new graphic for my personal Twitter header, and I was telling you this before on the show. And I think it's the new kind of way to look at this show a little bit. It's like a continuing adventure of what happens when the thing you love gets adapted for TV.
Exactly.
It's not just us sitting here going. We could have, I don't think we could have done a show where it was like, oh, we were mixed bag about how we felt about it,
Right.
and then sit here every week and we would have just abandoned it altogether. And now here's the other thing. So that being said, I told Don before the show, I was like, all right, I don't know how you felt about this season premiere and where this leaves you.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm pretty good with it, and I'm going to stay with it. So I've given Dom the same door, unlocked the door as I did Brother Bob. And, should that happen, this show will go on until, like, I can't handle it anymore. But I feel good about the season coming up. So I think anybody listening right now should kind of feel like this podcast is going to ride out this season one way or another with me at the helm and maybe rotating guests, just rotating guests. But who knows? But I think from what you were saying earlier, that like you coming out of that episode, you feel like you're going to give it a couple. You weren't too keen on a lot of the stuff you saw, and we'll get into it. But overall, you were thinking, I'll give it a couple more before I, walk away or something. All right, I like the sound of that. So, that said, before we get into it, I just want to take a quick second to remind people that this show is ad-free, and that's made possible by generous support with people who listen to it just like you. So maybe consider going to patreon.com/wickedtheory. Support this show and our other shows for just as little as $1 a month. There's other tiers available, and it would really and a buck goes a long way. So just want to say thanks for that if you consider doing it, and actually do. And my mic stands a little squeaky.
Yeah, it's all right. It happens.
It's squeaky. It's like an old rusty door down south.
Right.
Which is like a preacher kind of thing,
See, like I understand you're not listening to us, but if you're listening, and you're not, on the Patreon, it's a little unreasonable.
You're getting a free show.
Obviously, I'm tongue in cheek, but
yeah.
no, it's just if you like listening to us, which thank you if you do,
Hey,
and I don't blame you if you don't.
Well, here's the thing,
just imagine what it would be like if we met up and had a cup of coffee once a month. That's really all it is, donating to the Patreon.
It's basically
it's taking us out for one cup of Joe between the two of us, basically.
And that depends on where you get your cup of Joe.
Exactly.
For a buck or a buck.
Well, even $1, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I don't know.
McDonald's, I think, has $1 coffee. It's good, though.
Yeah?
It's tasty.
It got better, I heard.
It's good.
Okay. It's good. So with that, I think we'll just kind of really roll right into it. So it's the last warning for spoilers and stuff. This is season 3 now. We hope you've read the books, because that's the thing we do. We compare it and we recap it kind of as we go, theorize as the way. We kind of do it all in one as we roll. We do it linear to the episode, but, we kind of do it all as a hot mess. There's not really departments and sections. And I don't think there was any emails. I didn't check, and if they came in last second,
we'll get to them next week.
Yeah, I'm not going to disturb the flow here. We're just going to get right into it. I kind of overlooked that.
This podcast.
Don't feel too insulted.
Right. This podcast is for not only watchers of the show, but really for the book readers. So,
really, yeah. That's the thing.
We're gonna talk about what's going on in the show right now as it's happening currently, but we're also going to be jumping ahead and even going backwards to compare and contrast the two. So,
right. So it's a thing where it's like, if you haven't read the books, this is your option out.
Yeah.
And we're gonna that's the you said it.
Yeah.
For some reason I felt like there was something. I was like, I had something, but you covered it all. You're good. You're not rusty at all. I like that. All right. So let's just ring the bell. Let's fucking get the fuck on with it, right? All right. So my notes are over here. I know that you got some, but like I said, we're not going as deep and as heavy as we used to.
Certainly not.
So, but the show opens up with a flashback, and we get to see Angelville more than a few years ago.
Yes.
It's when Jesse would probably still be in his young whatevers, but he's not there.
Right.
It's his mother.
Mm-hmm.
We get to see his mom.
Now, before you go any further,
sure,
I just want to state that I was thoroughly confused for about 5 minutes in the beginning, because I didn't put 2 and 2 together that it was Jesse's mom right away, just based off the name.
Fair enough.
And the way it was in black and white was throwing me off on the time period.
Sure.
It was making me believe that it was even further in the past than it actually was.
Right.
So then once I realized that Christina was
his
Jesse's mom,
right.
I said, oh, okay, they're just doing the black and white.
Right.
Just for the sake of it being a flashback.
Yeah, just to kind of separate it out a little bit, and which was cool. But so the nature of it is that the setup on it is that. So what's different from the books too is that the house And what the family's doing is they kind of run these tours, and they have like this kind of bayou experience. You can go down to their property. It's like a local touristy kind of trap kind of thing. It's the kind of thing you see all over the country. You know what I mean? And it's a little ramshackle. It's got some grit on the edges.
Definitely.
It's not Carnival, which I thought is a thing we're going to get, but maybe we'll end up.
We might end up seeing it.
Something
we didn't
like
see
that.
too much of
What's going on the property.
Business end. I
Right.
feel like the
Yeah.
like official business end where they would do like the tourist type
Yeah.
thing. We only get to see that very briefly.
Right.
But I think the part that you're referring to that's kind of skeevy, for lack of a better term, is the basically black market business that they have going on of selling souls.
Yeah.
And other weird.
Yeah, some stuff that we know is coming because it was hinted at.
Right.
Like we didn't see some of it in this episode, but we know it's there. It's like more voodoo-y kind of stuff,
Right.
which we'll get to because Grandma's obviously got the voodoo mojo jojo.
Yes.
But so what happens is basically we get a setup on Jesse's mother. She's working there. We don't know it's her right away. There's a reveal on that. But, Grandma, Grandma's evil. I liked Grandma. But we get to meet Jody and TC real quick. And Josie's the big brute.
Yes.
So let's get into it. Since all these people are right there, how do you feel about what we ended up getting for Jody?
Jody ended up being kind of a mixed bag for me on this episode, only because I disliked him very strongly in the beginning when he and Jesse first meet, and
Right.
he like embraces Jesse, gives him a hug and everything.
Right.
And at this point in time, while I'm watching the episode, I was really starting to think that they had changed some of the actual substance of TC and Jody's characters.
Okay.
Because TC, we don't, apart from his weird comment about Tulip, that sexual comment about Tulip while he was like examining her body.
We didn't meet the pervo.
We didn't really get too much of his comic character.
Pervosity.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So I was thinking maybe they tweaked them a little bit, which I was open to.
Yeah.
But then I guess about midway through the episode, which I'm sure we'll get to that.
Yeah.
We definitely see the real TC.
Right.
And we definitely see the real Jody for sure.
Right. I'm not sure where that is in my notes, but for TC, what was that?
Basically, just the comment that he makes to Tulip was like,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
right, yeah, that's TC.
Yeah.
But obviously,
I think for time in this episode, we just didn't get to meet him too deep, too.
Yeah. Obviously, Jody like beating up like 30 guys with like machetes, machine guns, everything.
Right.
That
all fits the bill, kind of,
Yeah.
So I like that. Like, obviously they skewed him a little older.
Yeah.
Or probably a little bit more realistically in relationship to age to Jesse. You know what I mean? Because they kind of figured it out. Well, the books make him look like he's like 40 or something. Like not much. He doesn't look much older than Jesse.
See, yeah, Jody's a character that really only works in like book form.
Right.
Because well, especially the version that's in the comic anyways. I mean, because it's a character that's the way he looks and the way he acts and carries himself is about 20 years younger than the way he actually is.
Yeah.
His actual age, I mean. So doing that on TV or in a movie, I feel like would be very difficult.
Yeah.
Unless you got somebody that's like Brad Pitt or some shit that like, or like Tom Cruise that looks 40, but he's really like 55.
Yeah. So they go with this guy. He's got some salt and pepper hair to him, but he's big. He's not ripped. He's not super jacked, but he's big. He's actually, muscle though.
But I feel like he's played way heavier and more out of shape than Jody in the comic, where he's more of like a haggard type character, rather than like the 6'2", 6'3", lean, lean jacked guy.
Right.
Body naturally jacked, I guess Jody would be. Because he's just got like that freak hillbilly, strength.
And it's comic book, so it's like if a guy is like got shape to him, but he's not burly, like he's kind of ripped. Like every other character is ripped in comic books. It's just how it defaults.
Yeah, but for some reason it still works with him in the comic.
Yeah. It's the ripped sleeves thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
I'm waiting for that. Like I feel like if the guy had more defined arms, we would have gotten some ripped sleeves, some cut-off sleeves on a flannel. You know what I mean? I will say that like that's the thing. That's the difference from the comic is the family. Is the Bayou business aspect.
Right.
So that's a whole new thing. Like in the comic, it's not really alluded to like how they make money or how they get by.
It's basically just alluded to that they're like organized crime kind of.
Yeah,
where,
there is some shady-ish
Yeah.
kind of things, like which is probably like moonshining
Yeah.
type stuff, or whatever, or selling alligator skins. But they're really even like a lesser class in the book. They're much more trash
Right.
in the book. Like, you know what I mean? But
It's like that the family that they're almost like the O'Hares really, where it's like they're the
Gutter
bane
snipes.
of the town.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
like
yeah.
when you see them coming, you walk the opposite way, or
Right.
you turn to whoever's standing next to you and you say, oh,
yeah.
the
You mean the Edward O'Hares, right?
yeah,
Yeah, right.
exactly.
Love you, Ed. Just as an aside right now for anybody, it's a little inside baseball, but so scene later on where the father is, the Father O'Hare is doing
Right,
that
right.
whole long thing, and it's like the O'Hares have been known for being this and that and this and that. I'm just listening to it like, oh, this is gonna be a great audio clip to pull for Wicked Theory. All right,
Coming
so
to you, Ed.
it's coming, buddy, and he don't listen to this, so we don't even have to worry about it. So with that, we get to meet how Grandma kind of runs the place, the structure there a little bit. Christine, Jesse's mother, is hiding a picture of Jesse. She swallows it to get it away from her. Grandma cuts her open basically to get it out. And it's like, oh, I got a grandson. So she managed to have this kid in secret, which I thought was a little weird. But I think that follows the comic too, because she manages to run off and come back.
Yes.
So it's not, I don't know what the sequence is and how off that sequence might be versus the comic, because I know it's a thing where she did meet Jesse's dad, run away, have Jesse, and then she gets spotted and pulled back,
Yes.
I think. And I think that's how Jesse's dad gets, or they both do.
They both get pulled in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which again is a thing they don't do on
The show.
well, maybe they realize it, because I'm realizing now it kind of happens twice in the lore if you think about it.
Yeah.
Like that couple was out in the wild and Jesse and TC find them and bring them back, and then like present day,
Yeah.
like
Tulip and Jesse.
just bump into them.
Yeah.
TC spots them and is like, oh shit, there's cousin Jesse or
Yeah.
whatever he says. But basically that's the opening sequence. We'll jump across when we come back. It's Jesse, Tulip, and Cassidy. They arrive in Angelville. The place is empty. Cassidy tells just fucking this is it. This is where it comes out that he confesses that he shagged her, that they shagged. They start to fight.
Yes.
Now this is different than the comic.
Now this
This
is where
pulled a big punch out of the comic series.
Yeah. So yeah, this is basically where I have my main issue with the entirety of the show in general.
Right.
Like I'm willing to forget everything that happened in the past as far as departing from the source material. But this just throws a wrench in the longevity of the journey to me.
Right.
That I don't know how Cassidy, like how the dynamic between the three of them can be the way it is supposed to be, at least to me.
Right.
With that thrown in there, because I know personally that if my like best friend
That's a
shagged
deal breaker.
my girlfriend, it's a deal breaker.
It's a deal breaker.
For sure.
It's a deal breaker.
Yeah.
And even if I find out it's under those, like, kind of like we weren't together.
Yeah.
You guys kind of hooked up, and it's a girl who's kind of like, the one. She's down. Well, I mean, like, she's DTF. Like,
Okay,
she gets down. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she's promiscuous, we'll just say. She's cool with it. Because that's the kind of situation that it was. Like, you know what I mean? They got high or whatever, but, like, she was like, okay,
It was just a whatever.
I mean, she was rolling her eyes during it, basically, and but it was through the motions. It was not like a thing where like she was feeling anything for it or for Jesse. Right. But even if I found out that like there's some contextual things to it, I still wouldn't care. Like it would still be a thing where like it's a deal breaker. I think I can't be cool around you anymore.
So
dude.
it's a mixture of that as well as for me. I don't know if you have it in your notes, but a little bit further in the episode when Grandma presents that deal basically to Cassidy,
right,
through her own story,
right,
with her man. If that actually did happen and we didn't just see it, the camera just didn't show it to us.
Right.
How will that affect the dynamic going forward? If Cassidy and Tulip are in love, or Tulip shows this deep affection for Cassidy that she doesn't usually have.
Yeah, and you know, in the book, the thing that happens with them is a whole different context. You know what I mean?
Right.
So now here in the show, it's like, you know, it's changed it. Like, you know, that's a thing that happens later on and implodes the friendship. And in here, it happens, but it doesn't. It just adds a layer of this kind of like, oh, here's a new layer of our troubled dynamic as a group of friends.
Yeah, I was gonna say we don't really know where it's gone yet because we didn't really see them regroup. We haven't seen them regroup yet after she comes back.
That's true.
We really,
that's
you
true.
know.
Yeah.
But short of them just taking Cassidy or one of the three characters
Right.
out of the show and as a whole,
Right.
I don't know how it would work. Obviously, they're not going the way that the book goes as far as the end game and how everything ends out between the three of them.
Right. Relationship wise.
Right. So as long as, you know, even if they say going forward, Tulip's going to be with Cassidy and that's it, she's not going to be with Jesse. Whatever, that's fine, you know. Just do one thing hard,
right,
and don't continue to do the flip flop back and forth because that's a little frustrating.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. It's one of those things. It's a late, and it's also such a late stage thing in the books.
Yeah,
when it happens, it's like to have it up front here feels like it just is going to permeate in different ways, which is interesting. But, you know, I don't know.
It's also a wild thing for a show to do that's based off of, I don't want to get too ranty here about my complaints.
Yeah.
But it's just an odd thing to me for a show that's based off of source material to do.
Yeah.
Bring out, it would almost be like Game of Thrones bringing the White Walkers in like season 2 or 3.
Right.
It's like, whoa. I'm sorry for everyone that doesn't watch Game of Thrones, but it's like the big bad boss that really fucks everything up at the end. Bring that object or person in very early.
It's like something that happens in the third act being moved up to the first act.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh, wow, that really changes things. And, you know, it's one of those, and it's one of those things that in the arc of this whole comic book series that, like, there are only, I think, like a handful of truly sacred moments. Like, we can all argue about whether or not, like, go fuck yourself and the guy ripping off his dick and not getting that is a deal breaker. But I feel like stuff with, like, you know, Jesse and Tulip's relationship and that whole left turn twisty thing with Cassidy is a big fucking deal in the story. I feel
Definitely.
like you would have thought that would be one of the things, like, we'll just we leave that
right
or we address it later
because it stings more when you've spent so much time with them. So if they did this in like season 5 or 6, I think it would mean a lot more to the viewers because you've spent more time with them. You've seen their relationships grow. You've seen them all fall in love with one another in a way that you would never expect them.
Right.
To, you know, and then when you see it pan out, it's a very unexpected thing because you saw how infatuated they all were with the friendship of just, you know, being the three
group.
of them.
Yeah. And it's a thing where it's a betrayal. So unless they have some other giant betrayal kind of like they've kind of like loosely put away for maybe something down the line, some other twist of some other storyline. And I can't imagine something that would be as intensely personal of a betrayal. But, you know, we'll see.
We shall see.
So that'll be the new mantra to move us along. We shall see. Jesse, Tulip, Cass arrive. Place is empty. They fight. Jesse begs Grandma, offers anything. He does this thing where he cuts his hand and he bleeds for her on a paper, on a napkin or something. So she's got a little bit of her
bound by blood.
Yeah, he's bound by blood of some kind. Maybe she's gonna do a little DNA test on him and find out where his lineage is.
Yeah, well, maybe
it's cheap now.
I was also trying to think back to that episode last season with the souls. Now they needed like a specific kind of blood, right, for that. So I was thinking maybe she needed like some of Jesse's blood just to actually do the
Well, I thought it was probably
the thing that she
magic.
needed to do.
Yeah, and I kind of thought it was that too. Maybe it was kind of like, you know, it's part of the bond of the magic, like because he wants to, but it didn't come up again, and it didn't say, they never said anything about like so that's why I feel like it's a thing that we saw happen. It's going to come into play later.
Yeah, well, you know what?
Like,
actually,
I think it's about like him saying it might be even just ceremonial. It's like, you know, okay, I'm here.
But I think that it actually now that we're talking about it, I think it actually does mean something for the greater scheme of their family and the Enterprise because. She says to him, "You know what I want."
Right.
And I think that's going to end up being something like now he's bound to the land or something like that.
Right.
Or he's like, he's forced now by blood to do whatever she wants him to do.
He's definitely anchored there for the season.
Yeah.
And, it's going to be a thing where, like, she needs him to go run errands. Yeah. It's going to be, first half of a video game where it's like, do all these tasks to get to the big boss at the end of the level. Sometimes TV and movies lately, like, it just feels like that. Because I feel like from playing too many video games, it's ruined that whole, here's how stories work. Like, you know what I mean? We have to do things before we can get to the big thing. And it just feels, like, tasky. Yeah. Sometimes. But not so much on the show. But, so he bleeds for her. We go to break. We come back, and we go to Tulip, who's in purgatory.
Yeah, this was cool.
This was fun. This was cool. This is a hard change from the books.
Yeah,
in a bunch of different ways we'll get into. But I still kind of liked it.
Yeah, well, from like artistic,
creative, like let's do something different.
It looked really cool. And I thought it was really well executed.
Yeah.
And I thought it was cool how they had the staged actor that was Tulip as a young child there.
Right.
Because I feel like that could be a really good representation of what something like that might be.
Yeah.
Where like you're basically your soul is waiting judgment
and you're like in this
you're just sitting in a waiting room or something like that.
Yeah.
And
you've got this dreamlike condensed version of this worst day of your life or something.
Well, I was going to say,
this pinnacle day.
That's what I was going to say.
Or
exactly.
even like this dreamlike summation of like her childhood and all. Like, did it really all happen right then and there that day?
Yeah.
Obviously not, because it's like it's all condensed. It all happens too fast. But it's this thing where like she's a little kid. It's all about guns. It's about her dad who can't get it right. He gets out of jail and he tries to get a job and he can't get the job. So he fucking kind of breaks and it becomes this gun thing and there's cops outside and her mother's a whore in the other room. And all of this, as good as it was, and as much as I liked it, is a hard diversion from the books.
Yeah.
In the books, her dad, I think, is just kind of like an overly straight-laced dude who wanted a boy. Like that's kind of like her story a little bit.
He's really just like the man's man type of thing.
Yeah.
He's a widower, I think.
Yeah, right.
And the mother's dead. Or totally out of the picture, and he was just really hoping for a boy.
Right, and it's just
that's why she's raised the way she is, like gun-toting and so tough.
Yeah.
And stern, because he raised her the only way he knew how, like a man.
Right, I raised her to be the son I never had, basically.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? And so it's all this kind of like, gender question. Not that she questions it, but I just mean that's what ends up happening.
Right.
Like he puts all this like boy stuff onto her and into her life. You know what I mean? And it's not as layered. It's not as deep. It's generally speaking like it's cool and all. But it's not as interesting. What's interesting in the end with Tulip's backstory in the comic is kind of like how her dad dies because they're on a hunting trip and Tulip like accidentally kills him. I think she drops the gun or something like that.
No, I think she just shot him, thinking it was
like it was an animal
deer,
or something, right? It was some kind of cross confusion or something.
Yeah.
But here it's this whole other thing, and it's like really cool. I think it was like really well done.
Yeah.
And they kind of come back to it again a couple times.
It's something that, like, as a comic reader of Preacher, it gives us stuff that we should have gotten by now.
Right.
That's something to care about Tulip for. Like, I shouldn't be in season 3 of Preacher, and I'm like just starting to get
like something
to care about one of them. Second main character about, you know?
Yeah, it is a thing.
It's almost like about time.
Yeah.
So I second everything you said, and I enjoyed it, so.
So with that, we come back. Grandma basically saying that, this time's limited. I'm going to need some stuff. Mm-hmm. So basically Cassidy's got to go on an errand run for a few of Tulip's favorite things.
Yes.
This is how voodoo works.
Yeah.
And Jesse's got to go get some kind of turpentine or something. I forget what it was called. Turnover oil? Tap shoe oil?
Something like that.
Transport?
Transpoil.
Okay.
That's what we should name this episode.
The Adventures of Transpoil.
Yeah.
So with that, he's got to go talk to. This is when Jesse first gets to reunite with Jody.
Jody.
So he walks over to the docks, and Jody's there, and it's this whole thing because Jesse says, "I got to go see the guy who killed my dad," and
He's skinning an alligator.
Yeah, he's skinning an alligator, and he's a big dude, you know. So they play it like, oh, you think something's gonna happen, and then he hugs him, which Jesse is not expecting at all.
Neither was I, by the way.
Yeah, which was a nice misdirect play because they ended up duking it out later. So if you were sitting there going, well, I don't know if that's exactly how, you know, but it's a switch up. So, you know, and they paid it off again later, where those guys kind of, you know, have their moment.
Right.
So it wasn't too bad. But basically, Jesse's like, okay, let's go into town. Let's go get this oil. So they jump in a truck. They go. Jody's got to go knock heads to get it, basically. And they do this funny thing.
Quite a few heads he knocked.
Yeah, a lot. And that guy, I guess no one's got guns in that building.
There was definitely one guy with a gun shown.
Okay.
There was definitely a guy with a gun. But he's Jody, so he beat the fuck out of him.
Yeah, I guess, well, didn't matter, right? Because in the end. But I think when Jesse's parked around back, you can hear all the noise. I think maybe like 1 or 2 gunshots might pop off. There's so much noise going on, I wasn't really sure. But and then Jesse does like a roof jump down to like stomp on the guy that's talking to Jesse at the truck window.
Jody does, yes.
Jody does, rather. And then, so I was like, okay, Bionic Man.
Yeah.
But all right. You know what I mean? I get it. That's the way we're going to play it.
Yeah,
like,
you know, it's weird because we don't get any, like, anything outside of Angelville for TC or Jody in the comic.
Right.
So, like, we get to see Jody be a badass, but it's really only with Jesse or with something that's going on inside Angelville as far as, like, the extent of his
travels
ability to beat the fuck out of people.
Oh, okay, right,
so
right,
it's like
right,
we don't really see him, like, in public get into a scuffle with anyone like he does in this episode.
Yes,
so
right, right.
Like, who's to say that in the comic he wouldn't have been able to do the same thing?
Oh no, yeah, absolutely.
So.
You know, he's you know.
I liked it.
That's the one thing that's good about the comic too. Like, you know, you don't those characters seem to fit the air that they're given. Like, you know, Jody rather. Comes off as a badass, but he seems to bring it. Seems to be able to back it up. You get the impression from this guy, like, oh yeah, he's been around the block. Like, well, I don't need to know that. I don't need to see him fight to know that he can kick some ass, kind of a thing.
Well, it's also a thing too where most viewers of the show don't know this yet, if they only watch the show. But I'm sure you'll come to learn that everything Jesse knows, he learned from Jody.
Right.
As far as fighting ability and skill.
Right.
So if
at least that's
they're going to hype up Jesse
at least that's
in the
way it is in
show
the comic anyway.
to be beating up 20, 30 guys at a time in season 1 and 2, then the guy that taught him all that shit,
this is the dude.
He should be good.
Yeah, which is a good way to, you know what, good. That's a good reminder because that's a thing, right? So we've seen Jesse do that, so you know, I'm surprised he didn't have like a little nod to that since he just did the kind of same thing Jesse's been known to somehow manage to pull off.
Right.
He's like the sensei. He's like the Mr. Miyagi.
Right.
Indirectly.
He's the
because he's been the bane of Jesse's existence.
Yes.
What you'll come to learn, I guess, on the show, hopefully. You know, but in the comic, that's the way it goes. It's like this guy, I hated him before he killed my dad.
Right.
You know. So basically, Jody succeeds, and then they head back. Grandma's doing some Frenchy spell stuff. There's a little scorpion pepper moment. Grandma has one. No big deal. And then
she swallowed that thing quick.
She like one bite, and it was like woof. And then Cassidy has it, and obviously, you know,
he was having a rough time with it.
He was having a rough time with it.
Quite
Started
some time.
Started sweating. Which is a cute moment. But Grandma tells this story about the lover.
Yes.
We were talking about before. You want to go over that a little bit because you seem to have a little bit fresher memory on that. Cause I was having trouble.
Basically, she was just explaining to him. I'm assuming this is the father of Christina, Jesse's grandfather. I'm assuming this man was. But she just basically tells a story to Cassidy while he's choking on the pepper that he didn't want anything to do with her at one point in time. And she ended up doing a type of spell on him with that pepper. And he wanted her every day until the day she killed him.
Right.
So she's basically she obviously kind of understands the dynamic behind what's going on with Cassidy and
she's catching the vibes
and Jesse. Perhaps she saw them beating the shit out of each other
Right.
in the house like a second before she comes on screen.
Right. And at the very least, she's watching him in that moment,
Yeah.
like hovering over
Yes.
her.
Right.
So if she's putting it together even right there in that moment, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so we don't know whether or not, at least in this episode, if
Cassidy will take her
Cassidy took her up on that. So
Yeah, 'cause
it's
she's like,
definitely a
she's like-
possibility.
because she's like, I can do this for you, you know, with her, basically. And which, of course, she wants because that'll help drive the wedge.
She
And-
offers to do it for free because
Yeah.
she's just anything to destroy Jesse anymore.
Yeah, or just kind of separate him from anything and just keep my baby home.
Exactly.
Which is fine and fair because that's kind of in line with her madness of the books. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's a whole different. It's a little bit of a switch up and stuff. But again, like, you know, I like her. I like her as grandma.
Yeah.
I could dig it. I can feel it. I feel like that hair's a wig and it's gonna come off, and we're gonna see her bald fucking head at some point.
Hopefully.
You know, hopefully we're getting the fucking wheelchair express later on. That'll be interesting to see.
Yes.
I feel like that's a thing. I feel like that's a thing we need. Like it's in the book. It's got to happen. This is the
Right.
kind of show to make that happen.
Yeah.
This is a romp. You know, let's have the wheelchair express. I don't know. That's what I'm calling it. If you've read the books, you know what I'm talking about. So with that, so Grandma does those spells and then all that stuff. Jesse returns, and that's where he fights Jody. They have their fist fight. They duke it out for a little while. Jody gets the best of him pretty much.
Yeah, he's about to crush him with the truck.
Yeah.
And Grandma comes out
Right,
and
he
says,
does the Hulk move.
Yeah.
You know, he picks up the back of the truck. He's
just
like,
having
"What?
some fun.
We're just playing.
Yeah.
Just,
just having some fun.
oh, Marie, we're just messing around."
Yeah.
Which was a little, you know, which was like, I was like, all right, with the
Yeah.
truck, you know what I mean? But I get it. Which it didn't annoy me too much. So then we go break, and then we come back. It's Tulip in purgatory. There's some blueberry cereal. The kid's like, I'm just gonna eat my fucking cereal during all the chaos, and she's like, all right, fuck it, I'll eat some cereal too.
Well, what happened was it was an object that she loved, so what happened was it was sitting there
In the
in
room,
real life,
yes.
and then it ended up bleeding through to purgatory.
Right,
and then,
right.
You know,
So
that's how she ended up getting back.
And that's why that's why she needed the familiar things.
Right.
So then Joni Mitchell starts coming over the TV because they're playing the music. So basically she escapes, but she ends up at the plantation, but she's not out yet. She's on the road and she's running, and all of a sudden, God Dog
Yeah.
appears.
Now this is something we have to spend some time on talking about.
Man Dog, as he's referred to in previous episodes.
Okay.
Well, that's what Jesse calls him when
Right.
they're at the diner.
Now, number one question I have for you is, which I think we both know the answer to at this point.
Right.
Is that really God? Is that the actual God?
Yeah, I think at this point they've confirmed that that's how they're shown.
Right.
If
Okay. So I just wanted to clear the air on
Yeah,
that
yeah,
for
yeah.
anybody that wasn't totally sure.
Yeah, that's definitely.
But I wanted to get your opinion on it because
That's different.
It's a different thing, obviously, than the comic, because in the comic we get the just more stereotypical version of God, the white guy with the beard,
Yeah.
very almighty looking.
Right.
But I'm not so much pissed off about the fact that they changed what God looks like. It's just I think it's a pussy move on the part of the showrunners because they didn't want to actually show
what he looks like.
because I feel like on TV
commit an actor to it or something.
not even necessarily that, but on TV I feel like it's rare that we get
God on anything.
an actual version of like the white God with the hair and everything.
Yeah.
And in this, the way they would have to portray him going forward as like a fool,
Yeah.
kind of clumsy,
Yeah.
doesn't know what to do with all of his power. He's definitely a bitch and
Yeah.
a brat. So I think maybe the network or somebody along the lines stop them from doing that, and I think it's a bitch move personally.
See, I kind of agree with you in spirit there a little bit. I think the thing for them was they were thinking like, or at least their logic and reasoning is that like, well, this is a God that in the book like gets called out on for all his fire and brimstone being bullshit, and like that's a facade, and it's like, well, show me what you really look like, you know what I mean, or knock all this off, and he kind of withers down to like a normal looking kind of old man or whatever, and then continues the conversation. So I think this is like them spinning that a little bit, where
you're
like
right.
you know he puts up this kind of thing for whatever, and since this is the only thing that like now that they, and I was thinking, not to help them rationalize it, but I was thinking, well, if I was God and this is what they already know me as, let me just show them this.
Yes.
So it's just,
That's a good point.
maybe it's easy a way for me to keep myself deflected or to fuck with their heads. And plus, this is like a bent show now. This is more of a romp.
Yeah.
So, like, I get it, why the dog suit thing. But, like, I don't know. I agree with you, too. I could have had it any other way.
I think it's safe to just play it somewhere in the middle and not get too upset about it yet, because, like you said, at some point in the future they could say, I'll show you what I really look like, So
So now
I'll hold judgment on that.
So now, my last little thing on this is that I didn't do my due diligence. I didn't go back and reread the part where him and Tulip actually have the conversation, because that's the only thing that happens in the book, is that, like, for Tulip, she just kind of sees God and has a conversation with him, calls him on his bullshit a little bit. They have an exchange, but he pretty much lays out, like, some stuff for her, like, and they kind of come to an agreement, or, like, he tells her how it's going to be, this kind of thing. And in this, kind of, he's like, hey, I want you to do something, and he starts to yell it, and she gets pulled out before she can finish hearing him, before he finishes saying it. And it's pretty much like, I want you to get those sons of bitches,
that's what he
or
says.
something like that.
That's
like,
what he says. Because I
use the caption.
I was watching it with closed captioning.
Good.
And
I watched it on YouTube with closed caption, but I didn't trust it because it was YouTube's closed caption.
So it says quickly, sons of, and then it cuts off.
So, like, I mean, if he's just gonna say sons of bitches,
but I think they were using that phrase as a way for, like, God to just be saying that, to not give her the answer right away, whether or not that was, like, an actual thing.
Well, that would be interesting if it's like sons of something is like some kind of other family or some, like, because that's what I was thinking. Oh, if it's a misdirect, what if it's another misdirect thing? And it's like Sons of Anarchy, like, go get those biker guys. Who knows? Maybe this is the crossover. Maybe this is how you get your show back. She's, we're gonna get Charlie back. The ghost of Charlie's gonna come back.
Yeah.
Jax. I'm surprised we didn't see him down in hell.
Right. That's where he belongs.
So with that, it's mixed bag. Well, it is what it is. It's not completely horrible, but I wasn't sure if we were going to get anything with God there, because it seemed like they had changed so much about this moment, because this is supposed to this Tulip death is one of those big twisty turn things that happens. That when it happens, you're like, oh, okay, this is a thing that changes the game, kind of.
Right.
And here, it doesn't feel like it changes the game.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Let me play devil's advocate for a second, because
go for it, Demon.
As much as I've almost been complaining about the way they've done this with Tulip, they still kept the very basic details of what happens with Tulip's death,
and that's the root of most of what they do too.
Right, like she's still dead.
True.
She's still in Angelville.
True.
Grandma had a part to play in it.
Sure.
The only difference is, in the book, Grandma's the one that actually kills her, not brings her back to life.
Right.
But I think that the fact that they are there and they do the quick thing with the God dog,
right,
I think that's the show's way of nodding early to the comic fans,
right,
that there's going to be a reveal later on in the season that the way Grandma's allowed to do all of this shit isn't really voodoo. It's because she's got, like, she's got God on speed dial, basically. Or something like that.
Oh, it'll probably literally be speed dial in this, because we had the Angel phone in the first seasons. So she'll probably have, like, a website she goes to or something.
Right, exactly.
No, because she's too old for that. Like, Or is she going to be like the one old person in the world who knows how to use technology really good? And we're going to go with that, because that'll be the most unbelievable bullshit thing that they do. Now you guys are really stretching it. Grandma knows how to, she's not using AOL.
Right. I'm sure if they do
Especially
something.
this lady.
Yeah, I'm sure if they do something like that, it would be like an old Creole, old Bayou fucking.
Some kind of phone.
Backwards bullshit.
Like 1901 phone.
Yeah.
It's got the wires cloth.
Right.
All right. So she wakes up, and then she goes, so everything's cool, but she's sleeping because, after all that death, what she really needs is a nap.
Yes. Especially at her age.
Yeah. Jesse and Grandma talk. This is the last sequence of the thing, and basically, it just comes down to that they have a deal. And she's got his balls in a sling now, because she's back. I made it happen for you. It's all going to be good. I'm kind of, so from here, as far as the show goes moving forward, like I'm wondering if she's gonna have like, a lot of times in movies and shows, people come back from the dead, and it's like they're not quite right for a while.
Yep.
We didn't see any of that just yet, but maybe that's coming. Is she gonna be haunted by her family history stuff that she saw in her dream? Is she gonna see that little girl everywhere or something? That feels like something they might do on this show, not book stuff, obviously, but.
It could definitely be a way to get more of the backstory from Tulip. See, this is the thing. Like, we complain about not getting enough backstory on all three of the main characters, and then when they go and do it, we have a problem with it.
Well, here's the thing, too.
I'm gonna just continue to try and stay as objective as possible when it comes to getting backstory on the main characters, because as long as they're doing that, I'm fine with it.
Well, to tease it out a little bit, I will tell you that I did listen to a couple of interviews and stuff with Sam Catlin and a couple other people, and it seems like this is going to be the season that kind of follows probably a little more closely, pound for pound, the books, and so we know for sure from seeing previews and stuff like that we're going to see the Enfants du Sang, or whatever the name of the vampire group is.
We're going to see the big fat guy.
Yeah.
His name is killing me right now. I can't think of it.
Darnique?
Yeah, Darnique. Darnique.
I forget. I don't know how to pronounce it. It'd be interesting to hear somebody actually pronounce it in the real world, because it's one of those names where I've just seen it written, and how I say it in my head is different every time.
Exactly. Yeah.
I freaking see it.
Yeah.
But big boy, he'll be popping in, and it looks like from the trailer we're gonna get some of that maybe next week, because we're gonna see some Grail stuff.
Indeed.
Which we didn't see any of this week. They kind of kept it just to the main peoples. So
Bring
which means
back
that
Star.
So it means next week we'll get some Star, maybe some Arseface, and Arseface and Hitler, that sitcom, which now I want to see this show just kind of do that, because I think that might be funny if it's like they do like a Seinfeld thing, like if they end up in purgatory or something, and it's like a Seinfeld setup for 2 seconds, and it's got the laugh track and.
But
no, okay, I'm sorry.
Don't hurt me too much.
Fair enough. I just figured Hitler could come in like Kramer, like
I guess.
With his apron. And Arseface is the Jerry type. And he's, what's going on? What's this? And he's like, oh, Eugene, I have a problem with these people. They want to, rent out.
Whose accent is that?
I don't know. It's turning into French.
Is that Hitler?
It was supposed to.
Oh, that's Hitler? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
So that's basically the end of the episode, right?
Yes. Thank you for bringing an end to the end of that episode as well. But that's it. They have a deal. And so I guess it's this looking forward, or any other notes or thoughts, or what should we talk about at this point? What do you think?
Basically, all of the stuff that I have questions about going forward, I've brought up throughout the course of the podcast.
But I want to make sure you hit your points there.
I'll bring them up again just so that we could leave them open for emails if anyone wants to.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Leave some input on what they think, or get some more from what we think about them. Basically, shit. I'm looking through my notes, guys. Stay with me real quick. How do we feel about God being in the dog suit?
Right.
How will the dynamic between Jesse, Tulip, and Cassidy be at its core going forward, now that we know that the major thing that's their downfall in the future,
what is the dynamic
has happened.
Yeah.
So
it's more or less on the table.
Right.
Between the two of them, anyway.
Correct.
Tulip doesn't know, Jesse knows.
Correct. And basically just what does Grandma want? Like, what is her end game, really? Because in the comic, her big thing is just to keep Jesse there.
Yeah.
It's almost a thing where she loves him so much that she's evil about it, and no one else can have.
And I think her thing too in the book is also like, your family, like so you have to stay here.
You're obligated.
You don't, like you don't get to leave, which is basically you get to be my bitch, like like everybody else that's here. You just get to do errands for me and stuff. Like, I'm surprised she doesn't say stuff like I shouldn't have to rely on these two who aren't blood,
right,
and Jody and TC. I should have you here, like, you know what I mean? You should be like, she probably will say it, because now we have more time than the books probably, she probably will say something like, Jesse, you should be running this place. Like, oh, Grandma shucks.
Who knows? It could happen.
It could happen. But yeah, I think those are the general questions going forward for the show. I think overall, I was as to put it in context of how we feel about it in general, because that seems to be the ongoing invisible theme on this podcast. So like I felt good about it. I liked it enough that I don't have any real issues with it. Unlike stuff in the past, I feel like as the show is going, it's. I don't think that it's like just because exposure it's growing on me. I think that it's kind of becoming the thing I thought it would be.
Well, not even
where it was changed and it was different. And if I can overlook a couple of big things that irk me when they do come up.
Correct.
And those are long-termy kind of things. Termy.
No, I think the show has come into its own. I think they've kind of shed some of the filler that they had to include in season 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And now they could really just focus on backstory, filling us in on all the characters, as well as their end game going forward and their story arcs without any other bullshit.
Yeah. And I feel like, look, there's a theory out there that, some shows, they come into their own, they find their groove, season 2 or season 3, and that's where we are here, season 3. But if you think about season 1 not really being a book at all, this is season 2. You know what I mean? So this is the spot, basically, is what I'm getting at, where, if it's going to find its groove and get into its traction, because this felt like you were saying earlier, this felt more in line with a typical show kind of episode and structure and directed by or whatever than normal for the series. Yeah. So we're good about it right now.
We're enjoying it.
I'm
hoping you guys are enjoying it.
Yeah, hoping you guys are enjoying this feedback, these breakdowns. This is kind of maybe the new flow. Let us know what you think. This is a little looser, a little different. And send us those emails.
And let's talk about the show too. I feel like we should definitely have more conversations about what other people think about the show,
right?
Whether it's on air, on Twitter, on Facebook, or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. Well, you know what? If you got a hot second, actually, I got a couple of Twitter things I could fucking read off to you real quick, because welcome to the 2018.
And that is the year.
That is the year of that stuff.
Correct.
Whatever that means. Technology, I guess, is what I was going at.
Yeah.
Is that what I was beating around the bush for? Am I stalling? So Sarah Netzley. We'll do this as the wrap-up. Maybe we'll do some Twitter talk as wrap-up. Sarah Netzley is the co-host on the DCTV Report.
Yes, she is.
Our other show, if you like DCTV shows, live action, you should check it out. She's like, I'm delighted that Preach is back tonight, but I'm also gutted that we'll never get to see this reunion play out. She's got a picture. Play out with the same sweeping, vastly emotional stakes that the comics gave us. Seriously, name a swoonier, more epic kiss from a graphic novel. I'll wait. And it's the one where Jesse and Tulip are kissing as Grandma's house burns down, basically. And someone's got a decent, reply to it, and they were like, that could still happen. And she's like, no, I've got it all worked out in my head how it could happen. Don't get me wrong. So fingers crossed. So I always thought that was a funny thing that even in a world where it's like, no. It's like, you'll be all right. And then there was one other one. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
Cue the elevator music.
Cue the outro music. I could do that, right? From Alex Jameson. Oh, I forgot I had the audio clip on that. I'll keep it down for a second. The show has been very faithful to the tone of the comic in humor and irreverence, but not in the warmth and heart. The change of Tulip's backstory is another example of this. And this made me think of something, and it's kind of true. It is the romp part, but the things that give it its core heart and its core drives, to steal a term from Westworld, are kind of missing.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? Everything feels like it's got to be fractured or multifaceted.
Yes.
Nothing can be clean and easy. Like Jesse and Tulip can't just be in love.
Right.
It's always got to be under constraint. And that's a TV drama
and
thing.
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah, This is the music now, all right? So we're wrapping it up.
Tune in next week, y'all.
Tune in next week. If you don't like the music, set in your own. Maybe we'll play other people's music. If you want to come up with hey, it's always open to people.
It is.
Make something better if you don't like it.
Send that to
pvp@wickedtheory.com.
Thanks, folks. Come back next week.